Welcome to The Other Side, Mississippi Today's political podcast. I'm politics and government editor Jeff Pender. I'm joined here today with my colleagues, Taylor Vance. Taylor, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
And Michael Goldberg.
Good morning, Jeff.
Fresh back from Oxford, a little adventure there.
It's been quite a eventful 24 hours.
Right. We'll probably tackle some of that in upcoming podcasts. But we have a special guest today who I just told her I can't believe she hasn't been on before. We'll have to hopefully remedy that in the future. But we have House Representative Becky Currie, represents District 92, Lincoln and Lawrence counties. Believe you've been in the legislature since 2008. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And she is, importantly, chairwoman of the House Corrections Committee, and has been very busy, shall we say. Hit the ground running with that assignment, as she usually does with whatever tasks she tackles in the legislature. Chairwoman Currie, thanks for coming on today. We really have been looking forward to this.
Well, I have been looking forward to it also, and I've been working with Michael and of course Taylor for a while, and they've been good to me. So I was glad to come on and just have a conversation. Well,
sure. I think one thing that Michael would probably agree with, and Jeff, is whenever we're in committee and we hear either the speaker or a chairman say, "Lady from Lincoln," we usually get our pen and pad ready because we know it will usually be a good question that you're about to ask.
A rousing speech or a cutting question.
Aren't we supposed to do that,
Right. Well, let's hop into the main topic. And Michael, this is something you've written a good bit about with Chairwoman Currie's help. Give us a thumbnail of the situation going on in our prisons right now.
Sure. So, Chairwoman, as you know, we have our ongoing investigative series, Behind Bars, Beyond Care, which looks into the alleged denial of medical care in prisons around the state. And that reporting, much of which it was sort of born from conversations that you and I had. And I know that after you got this chairmanship, you embarked on a tour of Mississippi's prisons, and you are a former nurse, so perhaps it's fair to say that you were particularly attuned to assessing, the quality of healthcare in prisons. So why don't you take us back to the very beginning of this sort of mission you've been on to improve healthcare in prisons? How did it start? What did you see as you started to go inside the walls of these prisons and actually see for yourself how healthcare was administered in prisons? Tell us some of what you found.
Well, when the speaker, Jason White, gave me this corrections, I have to be honest with you, I almost fell out on the floor in the House when I was assigned that committee. It's never been in my wheelhouse, and I had to go to him and say, I'm not quite understanding this. And he said, healthcare is broken in prison, and you're the only one that I know can fix it. And I said, well, okay. And so when we got out of session, that was 2 years ago, I spent the rest of that year going to prisons. And, when you go, and I don't blame them for, they make sure everything's cleaned up and everybody looks good and everybody's on their best behavior. And so I call it a fluff tour. And, I wanted to see the hospital. I've asked 3 times to see the hospice at Parchman, and I've never been able to get in that room. Or building or whatever it is, I don't know. So that kind of always sends up a red flag for me. But I realized that I was not going to find anything out from Vital Corps, who had the contract, nor the Department of Corrections. I was never going to get the truth in what was going on. So I just got a legal pad and started going up in barracks. And I did not identify myself as a legislator, and I had not retired when I started this 2 years ago. I was still a working registered nurse. I worked in the ER for most of my life until I got into home health, which was slower. So I'm pretty attuned to things. An ER nurse can see things. And I went in and I sat down on their little tables and got my notepad out and I said, I'm a registered nurse. Let's talk about your health care. And Lord have mercy. I mean, everybody came and some for little things, but most 90% were huge. This is the day that the 23-year-old girl lifts her shirt up and she has breast cancer growing out of her breast. And I looked at Dr. Singh was with me from Vital Corps, and I looked at him and I said, how can this be? I mean, I'm not being rude or vulgar, but saying a 23-year-old girl, when it's growing out the side of your chest, you're dead. And he said, oh, she's going to get her first chemo this week. I said, her first? She's not going to make it. I didn't say that in front of her. But it was just from, I have lupus and I don't get any medication. I have blood clots. I'm supposed to be on blood thinners. I'm a diabetic. I can't get my insulin. I can't treat my diabetes. I've lost my leg, one of my legs from diabetes, not being able to take care of my diabetes. And I was so overwhelmed that when I came out, I realized we're spending millions of dollars. Last year we spent $124 million, and the last year of the contract it'll be $133 million on health care, and we're not getting any. What I did find out in looking into this contract is they bill ahead of time. So when you go to the doctor, they see you, they turn in your bill for your insurance or whatever it is. Well, we have general funds out of the taxpayers' coffers to pay for theirs. And they bill ahead of time this huge amount of money. And if they see anybody after this, it's just the cherry on top, because the rest of everybody else, if they don't see them, they keep the money. So we're paying $124 million to a company for health care that doesn't provide it, and they get to keep the money. And if you go in to look at anything, the charting is not done well. It's kind of the thing, if you don't write it down, you're not responsible for it. So you'll never be able to look at a chart as a nurse or a doctor and see what kind of protocols they are actually doing. It's just, I can't even believe this has gone on. So when I was upset about getting corrections and then I got into it, not only did it need just gutting from the inside out,
right?
It needed a complete overhaul. And then I've gotten into so many other things. It is the money that we give them, the access to inmate welfare dollars of, it's just so much corruption there. It just all has to stop. But yes, my number one is we've got to give patients, and I call them patients because when you're sick, you're a patient, no matter where you are. We've got to give them the care that the taxpayers have already paid for.
And, you mentioned Vital Corps Health Strategies. This is, of course, the private company that has received hundreds of millions of dollars contracted to provide health care in prisons. Over the course of our reporting, a former high-ranking MDOC employee came forward and revealed kind of internal communications between MDOC employees lamenting the quality of care or lack thereof that was provided by Vital Corps. So you just outlined a really wide range of issues. What oversight sort of mechanisms over both MDOC and Vital Corps exist at the moment, and how do you hope to maybe increase that oversight in the future?
Well, they have zero oversight. That was one of the bills that I put in last year. I had it kind of like the big beautiful bill. I had the big healthcare bill for
Right.
MDOC, and which was a failure on my part because they were able just to say, "Oh no, we don't want all of that." This year, I'll come at it a little differently and do it piece by piece, and we'll see how what parts of inmate care that they are not interested in doing. But it's and like I said, when I got there, then it became so huge that it just needs to be scrapped away and started over. But this year I'm going to do a lot of the same things. We're still at the part where an inmate has to tell a guard that I need to see a doctor, and he tells them to sit down and shut up, and they never get to see a doctor. But because it's still the old-fashioned, you write on a piece of paper to give to somebody to hope that it gets to vital core so they can be seen, and half the time they're thrown in the garbage, or a piece of paper, who knows, it may be stacked up at vital core, who knows where it is. But every prison has a kiosk, and the inmate puts it in, and then you have a record. And the problem is we keep 0 records, and there's no accountability. Oh, I didn't know he wanted to be seen. And like the article you did, he lost his arm. I'm so sorry he didn't get seen. We had to cut his arm off. I mean, it's just, but that kind of thing happens so often. This is, I'm glad you did that article. It's not a one-time thing. It's over and over and over again.
That's one thing, Chairwoman Currie and Michael, y'all have made public. We're not talking about a case of the flu, even, or a cold. I mean, y'all have brought to light some pretty harrowing stories. You just referenced Michael's recent story. A young man serving a short sentence on a
1 year.
A 1 year sentence on a fairly minor drug violation. He falls and breaks his arm in his cell and is left there. I'm no medical expert, but it appeared he was left there till his arm rotted off and had to be amputated. Y'all have also presented other cases.
Hepatitis C.
The hepatitis C, what appears to be perhaps an epidemic. I don't know. How does this happen? I mean, that's usually the first question.
Nobody ever looked before. But now that I've looked, why isn't anybody helping me? That's what really, I've run into roadblocks. And I go to the Speaker of the House, and he said, "Becky, go get him." Well, I can go get him till I'm blue in the face, and I'm proud that he lets me do this. But I've gone to all the powers that be, and I don't have anybody standing beside me backing me up. It's just me. And it's not that the proof's not there. I just, one of these days I'm going to be able to answer that question. And I don't have the answer yet why nobody else wants to look behind the curtain.
I mean, can I ask a dumb question? I mean, what has...
They're not all dumb.
What has Commissioner Kane's, answers or response been to some of this stuff? I mean, he's the head of the agency.
Commissioner Kane knows everything that is going on everywhere in those prisons. And he has known it, and he brought this organization from Louisiana with him because he said they were the best. So I'm yet to figure, what are they the best at? Making money and not taking care of inmates? Because that's what I see. That's the only thing that I see.
Chairwoman Currie, one thing you mentioned of no one else stepping up to tackle this or whatever. Mississippi has been what you would call a tough on crime state.
I have been took on crime.
Sure. And
I mean, until
Yeah.
I saw this,
Right.
and it takes seeing this to say, Judge, don't send that 1 year guy there. He never had drug and alcohol treatment. You're not going to, treatment in prison is not going to help you. It's
Well,
just not.
is that part of what you're running up against? That people are like, well, we, for lack of a better way to put it, we don't care about
you
these
don't matter
folks.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I can hardly hear you, so I talked over you. But it's like, and some people I've got, why are you so worried about prisoners? And they're human beings. And if you saw the living conditions and you saw what they have gone through, so you're going to put a drug addict in jail for a year. That's going to cure him. There's more drugs in prison than there is out on the street.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just, I promise you, it's an upside down world. And I haven't, I probably have put my finger on the problem, but I'm not willing to say what it is. But nobody cares. Instead of us worrying about these prisoners are going to come out, most of them are going to get out of jail one day. Let's work with them. Let's make sure they have a skill. We're spending enough money for every inmate that's coming out, to have a GED, have a job skill, and we play at that. I just need you to know that that's just kind of a play toy that they do for good publicity. If you went in to really see how drug and alcohol works, or some of the things, GED, or some of the things that they do, it's all smoke and mirrors.
Right. And, on the subject of drugs, of course, there are a lot of illegal narcotics flowing through prisons. But there's also the issue on the flip side of, legitimate medical drugs that are not getting into the hands of sick prisoners who need them. So
Right.
I'm thinking here in particular about hepatitis C. There are, it's a costly medication from what I understand, but there are mechanisms at the federal level, funding streams that perhaps the prison system, Vital Corps, could be tapping into that they might not be, or at least not the full scope. So tell us about the issue broadly of inmates not getting perhaps life-saving drugs they need in prison. And have you witnessed any mishaps with the prison system, either not ordering drugs or not tapping into all the funding that they could for these drugs?
Well, I will tell you that the hepatitis C was one of the first things I saw, and I wrote this in an article that we did at the beginning. A man wrote me a letter in parchment, and I was happening to be going there, and it was a letter, just a genuine letter. And this guy had been in prison 24 years, and he does have a eventually parole date coming up. But he had in prison Hep C for a long time, maybe even arrived with it. I don't know, but he had it. And he was 6 foot tall. He looked like he weighed about 118 pounds. He was walking on a walker, yellow in the heat of July. And I spoke to him. I had asked to see him because of his letter, just wanted to thank him. He didn't ask me for anything. I get a lot of people asking me for things, and the sickest man on campus didn't ask me for a thing. So when I saw him, I said, "Oh, you got a little liver disease going there." And he said, "I have hepatitis C, and I have asked for medicine for years." And Burl and the doctor were there with us. And I said, "Why would he not be getting hepatitis C medicine? We have, in 6 weeks, you can be cured." And, make sure he gets his medicine. And he did get it. And he's well, by the way. I kept up with him because he was my first case. But come to find out, they don't treat hepatitis C. Now, they're going to tell you, "Oh, we started and we've done about 50. Well, the meeting that I had with Dr. Edney and Dr. Singh, there was over 5,000 statewide prisoners that have Hep C. And it's a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but there is a 340B plan that you can go through the health department or UMC. And as of yesterday, because I checked, they have not applied for 340B for Hep C medicines. Not applied.
Which would be a huge discount on that medicine, to be clear, right?
And if we could get this communicable disease under control, and then once you get it under control, when you have 5 come in, treat them. Angola does it, and the weird thing is, Burl Cain had that program at Angola where they get the meds from the federal government for free.
Right.
And I've been saying, there's a program. I called Louisiana. They're willing to tell you how to do it. And today, nothing. And so that's upsetting to me, because I stayed in contact with a lot of my Hep C patients and inmates, and a 36-year-old from Jackson County died a few months ago because they would not treat him. Just died.
I mean, would it be possible for you to try to push a bill through the legislature that would require MDOC to apply for that?
Well, I will. That was in my big, beautiful
okay. Yeah.
bill that didn't make it. And let me tell you just some of the things that were in that bill. The kiosk, the Hep C program. They charge inmates $6 to see the doctor. And you have to pay your back balance. You don't have any money. You have to pay your back balance before you can see the doctor again. And if you get a prescription, it's $10 a visit from an inmate who's getting their parents or somebody to pay the bill so they can go to the doctor if they can get in. And I asked Derek Garner, who handles the money at MDOC, I said, Derek, how much money are y'all bringing in by charging inmates to see the doctor and get a prescription? Oh, it's nothing. I don't even count it, was his answer to me. And I said, well, I know that bill failed, so why don't you just stop it? They hadn't stopped it. It's plenty of money, and they're making money. Why would they stop it? But we don't have any idea where the money is or how much it is.
So let me just to clarify, you are the chairwoman of the committee of jurisdiction over that agency.
And I can't get information.
And you can't get any information on how much money and where that money is.
Correct.
Okay.
And that is unfolding at a time when you have seen, due to the lack of staffing overnight at prisons in some cases, inmates being transported to hospitals via helicopter, all of these instances of potential waste. Is that right?
Well, when you send a helicopter to Parchman, that's about $40,000 around, depending on what they do in the helicopter. But Vital Corps is in so much breach of the contract that it's supposed to have. One of the things that Vital Corps in their contract is supposed to have is 4 completely decked out ambulances with paramedics or nurses on board located at 4 prisons. And of course they would be Parchman, Rankin County, South Mississippi, maybe Walnut Grove. They have one, but it's at their office in downtown Jackson. They were proud to tell me that when the tornadoes hit a year or so ago, that they went and served people food. And I said, well, that's great, but you're supposed to be serving the inmates to take care of their health care. And yet they have put an ambulance at a prison. So instead, we pay $40,000 for the helicopter.
And how much money would, like, say, for example, the Hep C medication cost under the reduced plan?
Well, it's high. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
It's high. But like I said, Angola gets it from the federal government for free. Can somebody look into this program? You know, I have the guy on speed dial. I told him, let me get you connected, because they have to, unfortunately, apply for the program. I can't do it for them.
Sure.
And Chairwoman, let me ask you, you mentioned the contract. Vital Corps, in your words, is breaching it. Was it a competitive process, the bidding process for that contract, in your view?
Not in my view, it wasn't. I think it was written just for them. There was another company that had been here before, Centurium. They're owned by a different company. But we have the hospitals, our local hospitals. Oddly, there's one near every prison, which is, kind of unique. And this was also, 2 years ago during the time we were about to lose a lot of our local hospitals.
Right.
And I'm things are better, but they would always love to do that business. Then you would also have doctors and nurses who would never treat patients like this. You could only treat patients like this in prison where nobody talks, I guess. But a nurse or a doctor, we don't treat patients like that. That's malpractice. I'm shocked, but I do know that the lawsuits are stacked as high as the Capitol, but they don't seem to ever go anywhere. But Vital Corps has never had enough nurses. The standard is just so subpar. I don't have a clue if you're running that. I mean, I'm taking Burl out of this. If you're over that agency, why would you allow this to continue? I don't understand.
Chairwoman, let me ask you this for context too. It seems to me from what you've laid out, we, meaning taxpayers, are paying for this situation one time, paying for this contract, supposed to provide medical care. As you mentioned, most of these folks are going to get out at some point. It seems to me that if in prison these illnesses are allowed to reach a chronic state, they get out, they're still ill. Chances are taxpayers are going to have to pay again.
Absolutely.
Through
they're going to have to pay
Medicaid
the full price.
Right. So taxpayers are paying twice, coming and going on this issue. It
And
would appear.
also, you need to understand that this is a public health emergency. It should be stated, prisons are a public health emergency, because when you have this disease, they're bringing it out to the community as well.
Right.
When they get out, they're coming out with it, and it's just, how many people will they infect on the way out? So it should have already been a public health emergency. In my eyes, it should have been called one.
Should we be privately contracting for health care? Is there another way to do it?
Well, the RFP, and for those that do not know what that is, that's when you apply for the state contract. You have to go through a RFP process and put the bid in. According to what I heard, this was when I was just coming in, Vital Corps had the lowest bid. But maybe the other people were actually going to get rid of hepatitis C, and maybe that's why their bid was higher. I don't know. But the contract was written so narrowly that the hospitals couldn't get in, and they wanted to. And they wanted to for a couple of reasons. Most hospitals, when a inmate is taken to their hospital, Vital Corps won't pay them. I get calls from all over the state. Vital Corps owes me $2 million and won't pay their bills from our hospitals. So their version is, let me take care of them and pay me Vital Corps' money. I'd be better off.
Sure. Chairwoman, we are running a little short on time here, and could obviously, I think, with this issue keep going. So if we could, we would like to maybe secure from you a promise to come back and revisit this. I think we're going to see what happens in the legislative session, and I'm sure Michael's going to keep in close touch on this. Just in closing, are you at all hopeful to gain some ground this coming session?
I can't answer that. My bills last year left the House 122-0.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to the Senate where they were killed. Then I won't go into how, but it was pretty ugly. But I'm going to make it a point to make sure that everybody knows you're voting to give our tax dollars away to people to another state and not get what we're paying for. That's literally what you're doing. Somebody's putting it in their pocket, and we're not getting what we paid for, and they're suffering in the prisons.
Well, hate to end on such a dour note there, but it is what it is, as they say, correct? Well,
that's right. It is what it is.
Again, we really appreciate you coming on, and look forward to following up with you in the future on this.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all so much to help me bring this to light. That's all I've known to do, is just keep bringing it to light so people will understand.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you.
Thank you.